Bryan Danielson's retiring. We're going to give you guys all the details in today's video right here on TAS. Welcome to the Ango Show. I'm, of course, Ango. We're going to kick things off with some NWA news. Velvet Sky has revealed that she is departing NWA, and it doesn't look like there's any drama here, but you might be wondering, why am I talking about Velvet Sky, and more specifically, why am I talking about NWA? Well, one, I do think we should mix in more of the smaller promotions, and I think NWA is a company I try to give it a chance. It's not a company that I'm necessarily interested in. There's a lot of things I would do differently surrounding NWA. But Velvet Sky is definitely not a no-name in the world of professional wrestling. I mean, anybody who's watched TNA growing up knows that Velvet Sky is the real deal. And I actually think this is a big hit to NWA. I feel like Velvet Sky offered a lot in her commentary role with the company. We know that Velvet Sky is part of the Impact 1000, and it did get me thinking, with her announcing her departure from NWA, is there a chance that we see Velvet Sky return to Impact? And we know that Impact Wrestling is making a lot of changes to its production. We understand that there's a lot of changes happening with the venues that they're booking, and there's been a lot of improvements for Impact Wrestling these days, and that's obviously a good thing considering the fact that, the pandemic definitely impacted them, no pun intended, but, it got me thinking about Velvet Sky and her future. And, I could definitely see Impact Wrestling bringing in Velvet Sky. Now, whether or not she wants to wrestle or anything like that, I'm not going to sit here and speculate. But what I will say is that I look at WWE NXT and I look at Impact Wrestling. And I think they have great commentary teams. But I feel like Impact Wrestling, with them transitioning into this new era, for example, I could see them benefiting a lot from having Velvet Sky as a full-time commentator in the company. I can also see WWE NXT benefiting from having her as a commentator as well. And then, of course, there's always that possibility of where she comes back to manage somebody, which would always be cool. It's hard to speculate on something like this because we really don't know where she's at mentally with the whole thing. But we know that she's gone from NWA. It doesn't seem like there's any drama there. But it is definitely interesting because of the fact that Velvet Sky, in my opinion, is somebody who will never really get credit for what she's done in the industry. Now, she's been with the NWA since like 2021. We know that she retired from in-ring competition like 2016, 2017. We've seen her everywhere. A lot of people were thinking that maybe she could be an acquisition for Ring of Honor or AEW as well. There's just a lot going on here. And you look, the more veterans in the business, the better. You look at the Impact Wrestling Knockouts division, very, very good. You look at the NXT Women's division, very, very good. You bring in a veteran like this to help them out. I think it does a lot for your business, and it's going to be interesting to see how NWA moves forward. Jade Cargill back in AEW. This is generating a lot of conversation. We know that she returned at Collision. She's going back for her TBS championship. Don't know why the hell AEW is going that route. I think Jade Cargill is one of those people that should be like the face of the company. That bothers some people, but I do think there's a huge crossover potential with Jade Cargill. She's improved a lot in the ring. She's already got the charisma. She's got the character. She's got a lot going for herself. It's so crazy because there was talks of Jade Cargill not returning to AEW. We know Meltzer kind of touched on it the other day. There's no talks of when she would return. Sure enough, she ends up returning to AEW on Collision. We know that recently she did a podcast where she was talking so much about her love for AEW and Tony Khan, and that was great. If you guys didn't listen to the Women's Wrestling Talk podcast, highly suggest you guys go watch it. But the reality here is Jade Cargill is back. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, it's because Boozer Wrestling put out a very interesting tweet yesterday. And Boozer Wrestling put out this tweet that was very simple, and it just says, anyways, they are in talks with Jade. Things might happen quick. Now, this is a very plain tweet, but this was tweeted at 4:30 on September 9th, 2023. Boozer Wrestling is an insider scoop account for WWE, and if WWE is truly in talks with Jade Cargill, you might have to wonder why she is fighting on Collision. Are they really in talks with Jade Cargill? Now, we know in the past WWE had interest in Jade Cargill. It sounds like Jade Cargill is going to be ride or die for AEW, but you have to wonder if WWE is going to try to swoop in and make a very big deal. And I don't know. There's something weird about this, right? If she's under contract with AEW, why would WWE be in talks with her? These are all things that you have to consider. So, nonetheless, Jade Cargill might be in talks with WWE. I mean, that's what Boozer Wrestling is saying. We can only go off of this tweet. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but I think Jade fits WWE the most with her style. I look at Jade Cargill and Charlotte Flair as a main event WrestleMania match. That bothers some people. But that's just the reality. I look at the big, shebang, right? Like, you got to have the lights, the cameras, everything. You got to have the high production value, the crossover stuff. It's all about presentation and how you present things. I think they're two very, very good stars. I think Jade Cargill is the Charlotte Flair of AEW, and I mean that in a very, 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 very positive way. If I'm Tony Khan, and any of this is true, if there is any interest for her to go to WWE, if there is any talks of her going to WWE, if I'm Tony Khan, I pay her the money. I make her women's world champion. I mean, I really build the shows around Jade Cargill. That's me. That's what I would do. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe you do. You should let me know in the comment section down below. Bryan Danielson was talking on Collision about retirement. He says he's got like 1 year left. And, here's the crazy part about it all. Sports Illustrated came out. And they did confirm that Bryan Danielson is indeed stepping away from AEW full-time within the next year. Now, the belief is that Bryan Danielson's contract ends middle of 2024. And basically, the belief going forward is that Bryan Danielson will stay in AEW. He'll obviously contribute to AEW in terms of creative and other business roles. But there is this belief that Bryan Danielson will, in fact, be retiring from full-time ring action. And if he does compete in the ring, it's going to be as a part-time wrestler. Special attraction. Now, the thing is, Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr., it's happening at Wrestle Dream. I put out a tweet. This obviously bothered people because, God forbid, I say something that doesn't bother people. But I said basically what I put out in my tweet is, I'm extremely happy that this match is happening. I'm very disappointed that there's no reason for this match happening other than the fact it's a dream match. People get so offended when I say I want more storylines, but they don't realize how many good storylines AEW had before, and that's why I want more of them. Whatever. And I actually stand by that. I think this is going to be a freaking amazing match. Obviously, we know this. And it's not even so much about storyline. It's just the fact that this is going to be happening when we know damn well Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson could have a really, really good story. That's all I'm saying. I just want them to have a purpose for this other than the fact that it's a cool match. It looks like WWE and AEW used Bryan Danielson differently. WWE didn't realize what they had with Bryan until way later on in his career. Once they knew what they had with him, they really honed up to him being a character. In AEW, when you look at Bryan Danielson, it's just this guy's a very good wrestler. I love what he does with BCC. I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff they could do. But to me, I feel like Bryan Danielson's going to be doing all these matchups for the rest of his full-time career. It's just going to be all the matchups that hardcore fans want. And I understand why Tony Khan would deliver that, but at the same time, too, the fact that Bryan hasn't been given a championship run with the world title is crazy to me. I feel like it would have been a very, very smart business move for them to do that. You could have Bryan Danielson drop it when he's ready to retire. I don't know what the hell they're planning here, but it should be very interesting to see Bryan Danielson retiring. Pretty crazy, man. Pretty freaking crazy.